Hello and thank you for joining us. My name is Ben Sheen, I'm a managing editor here at Stratfor. I'm joined today by our Vice President of Asia Pacific Analysis, Rodger Baker, to talk about recent developments from North Korea. Rodger, there's quite a bit going on in the Korean Peninsula at the moment, what with the leadership conference starting tomorrow in Seoul. But all eyes are really focused on North Korea and what they're doing. At the end of April, they launched a KN-11 submarine-launched ballistic missile. What sort of threat does this realistically present to the region itself?
Well, I think at the moment it doesn't fundamentally alter the situation in the region. The North Koreans are in the early phases of tests. There's still several years of tests probably to go before they have a viable missile. And then there's the question of their submarine capability, whether or not they have a submarine that can actually carry and launch the missile. And is that a submarine that would be able to move largely undetected to truly provide them with, say, a second strike nuclear capability? However, the North Koreans chose to time the announcement of that launch right around the time that originally they were supposed to be, or everyone was expecting Kim Jong-un to go to Moscow, and also ahead of an expected visit by the U.S. Secretary of State to South Korea. And I think that part of that was to really shape the impression of the countries around that North Korea was not joking when it was saying that it was building a true deterrent to protect its territory.
Now, you make a very good point that Korea doesn't need to be able to go toe-to-toe with the major powers in the region. All it needs to do is have enough capability to really deter a larger power from wanting to take on North Korea militarily in the first place.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's given North Korea in some ways an advantage over countries even like Iran, Libya, Iraq, is that North Korea for the longest time had a very viable conventional capability. With Seoul, South Korea, so close to the border, any military action against North Korea would effectively leave Seoul likely a loser, at least in the terms of the city. Ultimately, North Korea may lose a conflict, particularly one brought on by an outside power, but it would devastate Seoul. What the North Koreans have done is used that to give them time to build up a nuclear deterrent. And adding in the nuclear deterrent further raises the cost for any country that decides it may want to use a military action against North Korea to try to change North Korean political behavior or North Korean economic behavior.
And it seems to me that this inherent unpredictability really plays to North Korea's strength. You're not quite sure what they're going to do next. And we saw this recently with the rumored killing of one of their defense ministers who, as the story goes, was killed by an anti-aircraft gun. How true are these sort of rumors? How much can we place on rumors coming out of North Korea?
Well, I think we have to be very careful in the way in which we read these. It doesn't mean you have to throw all of them away, but understanding the way in which information comes out of North Korea, that it's not always coming direct. It may be coming from defectors or from individuals who have an interest in shaping the information. There may be political reasons to shift and adjust how it's presented. In this case, he may have been executed. Using the anti-aircraft gun seems a little extreme. It's like the story that Jang Sung-taek had was executed by dogs, which turned out to have originated basically in a Chinese blog and had nothing to do with any basis of reality, but it spread very quickly. I think that people want to believe the worst and the most extreme of North Korea because it's still one of the few at least in appearance, closed spaces. And the North Koreans have an ability to manipulate and utilize that. So if you recall back when the first meeting between Kim Jong-il and Kim Dae-jung of South Korea, the very first inter-Korean summit, everyone ahead of that had anticipated that the North Korean leader was crazy, that he wasn't very smart, that there were all sorts of problems with him. And what happened when they had that meeting is he was very polite, he was very well-spoken, and it took everyone off guard. And keeping that level of uncertainty helps the North Koreans better manage the way in which other countries may or may not want to act and allows them to manipulate differences amongst other countries around them.
It certainly makes our job more interesting looking at what comes out of these countries in the future. Rodger, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you.
For more North Korean analysis, please continue to read Stratfor.com.